Okay, I am officially taking the words gatekeeping and gaslighting and putting them away on a high shelf until people learn how to use them properly. The use of therapy speak to make someone's argument sound somehow more intelligent or make the person arguing look like a victim so they can weaponize it against the person who they think did them wrong is nothing new, but it has gotten so much worse in the past couple of years. People on advice forums have asked if they're being cruel by not letting a friend borrow jewelry or a dress that means a lot to them. Possibly family heirlooms or something that was expensive and took them a long time to save up for, and are being accused of gatekeeping those items. Then you have people who are given an answer to something they don't like, possibly just being told no to something, like, no, I'm not comfortable with you, my husband, going on a week-long trip with your coworker that you keep calling your work wife who openly hits on you in front of me where you will be sharing a room without me there, and the husband calling it gaslighting for her to say no. These are not the meaning of these words. Gatekeeping specifically refers to keeping someone out of something that they have every right to. Like trying to keep girls out of games because a bunch of guys never learned how to talk to them as if women are people and don't like being reminded of how little charisma they have, no matter how the virtual anime girls fawn over their avatars, or trying to keep certain races or genders out of higher academic circles or work environments, regardless of experience or ability. What gatekeeping does not mean is that saying no, this thing belongs to them and they don't want you to use it. Not wanting to give someone their wedding dress so their sister-in-law or friend or whoever doesn't have to buy one is not gatekeeping. Not giving someone a piece of heirloom jewelry that they have no claim to whatsoever isn't gatekeeping. Saying no to having someone's dog in a place it doesn't need to be, that isn't public property, isn't gatekeeping. Hearing the word no doesn't mean you're being discriminated against by default. Sometimes a no is just a no, and people have got to learn to take a no like adults with functioning brains instead of spewing whatever words are fashionable on TikTok right now to try and paint themselves as a poor little victim. The same goes for gaslighting. Gaslighting, based on the 1940 thriller Gaslight featuring Ingrid Bergman and Charles Boyer, refers to someone who tries to convince another person that they are crazy, and whatever they think is happening isn't, because they can't trust their own mind, as a manipulation tactic to make the victim believe basically anything the gaslighter says, even if it's clearly untrue. In the movie, Paula moves into her late aunt's townhouse with her husband Gregory, and things quickly take a turn for the strange. Paula finds a letter written to her aunt from a man named Sergius Bauer, her husband reacting violently, though he does apologize afterwards. He hires a young maid named Nancy and insists to her that his wife is high-strung and that she must never bother her. Gregory starts to tell his wife that she's forgetful, and she starts to believe him when things start going missing, like an heirloom brooch she was certain she had put safely in her bag, or notices noises in the attic, which her husband told her was boarded up and empty besides her late aunt's belongings, or the gas lights dimming when her husband isn't home, which he insists is just her imagination. Gregory also flirts with the maid, who openly shows disgust for Paula and just makes her more upset. Her behavior is noticed by a friend of her late aunt, Inspector Brian Cameron. It turns out Paula's late aunt was murdered, and a gift of royal jewels was not recovered after the murder. Gregory isolates his wife from the world and convinces her that she's a kleptomaniac, someone who compulsively steals without even realizing it sometimes, and that she stole a painting. When he can't stop her from leaving to attend a party, he accuses her of stealing a pocket watch in front of everyone, pretending to find it in her handbag, making Paula become hysterical and break down in front of everyone. After he drags her home, he insists that her mother died in an insane asylum, and the letter she thinks she found never existed. He convinces Paula that she is insane, causing her to break down again. However, Cameron had a patrolman watching him, and they pieced together what was really happening. Gregory was actually the man who wrote the letter, Sergius Bauer, who murdered Paula's aunt to try and steal the jewels from her, but was interrupted in his search, and married Paula under a fake identity to try and get access to the house again so he could try to find them. His search causing the noises in the attic and the dimming of the lights downstairs. He wanted to make people think Paula was crazy so he could have her locked up and be free to search the house top to bottom without interruption. Cameron ends up confronting Sturgis and tying him up in the attic, leaving him with Paula as she muses over a knife, having learned of her husband's trickery and that she is in fact perfectly sane. Her husband begging her to set him free, while she taunts him, telling him the knife in her hand might not be real at all. It's heavily implied that Sturgis dies in that attic, though of course it's left up to the imagination. Gaslighting, inspired by this film, is about making someone think they can't trust what they see or hear. That even if they witness something personally, it might not be true, because their mind might just be playing a trick. It's used to manipulate someone into a vulnerable position where they'll believe just about anything that the gaslighter says, no matter what they see or hear right in front of them. Oh, you saw a man climbing out of your girlfriend's window half naked and running off into the bushes? No, you didn't. It must have been a trick of the light. She's been home alone all night, or with friends. See, she's got photos right here on her phone of hanging out with her friend. Never mind the timestamp. Oh, this child says that their caretaker did something horrible to them? Oh, that can't be. That person wouldn't do that. They must just be imagining things. You know you think things happen that didn't when you're tired. You clearly heard and recorded this person saying something incredibly racist or making violent threats? Here, let me see the recording. Obviously they didn't actually say that. What? What recording? You have no recording. See, it's not here anymore. Don't look in the recently deleted files. Gaslighting and gatekeeping are not just being told no or hearing an answer you don't want to hear. It's not gaslighting to tell someone you can babysit their kid, but circumstances change and you have to let them know that you can't anymore, but you're sorry and will try to make it up to them later. Gatekeeping isn't saying, no, you can't borrow my car, especially not after you trashed it before when I let you use it. People have started using therapy speak terms to try and paint themselves as victims more than ever, and it was old when it started. No one is falling for it anymore when someone throws themselves to the ground wailing that they're being gatekept when someone says they can't borrow their wedding gown. No one thinks someone who throws a tantrum over not being allowed to borrow someone's car is actually being gatekept. No one genuinely thinks that someone hearing the word no or being told something they dislike is being gaslit. All doing that does is make it obvious that the person trying it is a dishonest, whiny brat who spends way too much time online listening to people who are trying to make their living by being outraged over nothing in front of a camera. Please try not to use terminology like this so lightly. When people use terms that refer to something serious as just words to throw around mindlessly, it diminishes the seriousness of it and turns it into just another meaningless buzzword that people ignore. If people call every little thing racist, the word loses its meaning and no one takes it seriously when something that actually is racist comes along. The same thing happens with sexist or homophobic or anything else that can actually present a problem. If any situation or statement that someone doesn't like gets called one of those things, it lessens their meaning and how seriously a situation is taken when it actually involves one of those things. Words have power, but overusing them takes away that power, and can mean that when the word needs to be used in a real, actually serious situation, it no longer has the power to do so. Things that need to be taken seriously should not be used lightly. If they are, when you really need them to have weight, they just won't. Thank you for joining me today. I know this one isn't really a review or anything, but after reading yet another story about someone screaming that they're being gatekept from clothes after a friend didn't let her use their nicest dress so she wouldn't have to buy their own, I just got irritated and needed to say something. I am so thoroughly sick of people using terminology with heavy meaning to basically mean anything that offends me or that I don't like. Taking an answer that you don't necessarily like gracefully is a very important life skill, and one that I hope my listeners can work on developing if they haven't already. The weather is getting colder, as much as it does these days. Anyway, so be safe, stay warm, keep a mug of cocoa or tea handy, and I'll see you in the next one.